Dear Jana, brother and sisters, today we are to discuss with Ambassador Sangeeta Bahadur, who joined Indian Foreign Service in 1987. During her 35 years career, she served India in various capacities, both at home and abroad. Starting with Spain, she was posted over the years in Bulgaria, Mexico, Belgium, UK, and as ambassador to Belarus. She retired last year as High Commissioner to Malta. At headquarters, she handled responsibility across the board, including as Deputy Director General, Indian Council for Cultural Relations, and resident faculty at Sushma Swaraj Institute of Foreign Service, New Delhi. She also completed the 11-month course on national security conducted by National Defense College in Delhi. During her long and distinguished career, she acquired substantial experience in public administration, strategic planning, media management, negotiations, and narrative building. She is also a published and much loved author of heroic fantasy series Kal, which is unique in weaving concept from Indian spiritual traditions and philosophy into the amazing journey of an original Indian superhero avatar. Her next stand-alone book, a historical fantasy, is expected to be out soon. She is a fluent Spanish speaker, a good orator who has regularly been invited to speak at universities and other organizations, and a gifted amateur singer who has often lent her voice to cultural events in India and abroad. She was a 2022 global finalist under the United Nations, and she inspires annual awards. She inspires annual awards in two categories. She holds a prominent position in the international organization G100 that brings together that brings together she, that brings together high profile women achievers in diverse fields. She is president of General Next Foundation, Gen Next Foundation, and active member of Jena World Family, and is closely associated with many of initiatives and activities. She is now committing her time and experience to guest lectures, foreign policy, international relations, doing business abroad, cultural diplomacy, etc., and mentoring programs at various universities around the country. She is also a strategic advisor to several organizations, including FICCI and IIM, Raipur, on matters of international business and foreign collaborations. She is now registered as qualified independent director with the Ministry of Corporate Affairs. So with all these things, we will be now listening her experiences in these countries and her other qualities we will come across, and we will be anyone whosoever has a questions, he will be able to ask her directly. Thank you.
Ashok Bhaiya, you can unmute yourself.
हाँ जी, नमस्कार जी.
Yeah.
Hello,
Please.
namaskar, Ashok ji.
Hello जी, नमस्कार जी. Good to see you. Thank you for
Kindly-
coming.
Good to see you.
Ashok Bhaiya, this is your, because we are awaiting Meena Tilak Raj.
हाँ जी.
Till then, you have seen the poster.
हाँ जी.
The topic is that we want to understand
Mhm.
the experiences Ambassador Sangeeta Bahadur had
हाँ जी.
in all those various countries that she
Mhm.
was posted.
हाँ जी.
So on that clue,
हाँ जी.
you can start asking her, and
Mhm.
she will be happy to answer.
So it's a interaction,
Yeah.
interactive program or
No, it is an interactive.
okay.
भाई जैसे पहले होता था, समझ
अच्छा.
गए?
हाँ
पहले
अच्छा.
होता था।
अच्छा ठीक है.
अच्छा होता था
तो अली साहब आप ही चालू करो, आप आ गए तो पहला
भाई। मैं
क्वेश्चन.
तो हूँ, मेरे हाँ क्या इन दोनों से क्या पूछो, ये लोग, इनका तो है एक क्या कहते हैं, विशाल सागर है इनका तजुर्बे का, और ये दोनों अपने अंदाज से बयान करेंगी।
तो मैं पूछता हूँ इनसे, मैम से. Ma'am, thank you for joining us for this interactive program, and it's nice to see you after a long time.
Yeah, that's
Attended
right.
last presentation also, but I didn't know that how many countries you have been posted around. Can you tell the numbers? And in each country, you have a fixed tenure. How many years? Like that?
Each country normally it's 3 years plus or
Okay.
minus a few months
हाँ
usually,
भाई,
unless of course you are like for some reason you're called back to headquarters, or you have to go a little earlier for another posting or a little later, because कभी-कभी क्या होता है कि chain होती है, like people being posted, आप उनकी जगह वो किसी और की जगह वो किसी और की, तो ऐसे chain जब बन जाती है, so then it becomes a little less predictable. तो हो सकता है कि आपके 3 साल खत्म हो गए, आपको और 6 महीने वेट करना पड़ जाए by the time everyone moves and you can also move.
Takes
So
over.
but normally 3 years होता है. And मैंने कितनी 7 postings की है, starting with Spain, which was my first posting. तो वो तो basically हमारी मिनिस्ट्री में ये है कि हर ऑफिसर को we are allotted one compulsory foreign language, और फिर वो language जिस country में बोलते हैं, you are supposed to go there, learn the language, and also learn the work of the mission. तो मेरी language Spanish थी, तो then I went to Madrid, Spain. तो पहली posting मेरी वहाँ थी, which was such fun. बहुत ही I still look back with so much affection and so much warmth, क्योंकि वैसी कंट्री बहुत कम देखने को मिलती है, एंड वैसे लोग भी बहुत कम देखने को मिलते हैं. सो आई हैड अ ग्रेट टाइम इन स्पेन. और माय नेक्स्ट पोस्टिंग वाज इन बल्गेरिया. सो आई वाज इन सोफिया फॉर जस्ट ओवर 3 years आई थिंक. उसके बाद फिर हम मेक्सिको चले गए, और मेक्सिको में भी वही अप्रोक्सीमेटली द सेम टाइम. बीच बीच में इंडिया आना जाना होता रहा, like because the rule is कि हर 2 पोस्टिंग के बाद आपको आना पड़ता है. You have to come back. So for at least a couple of years. कई बार उससे ज़्यादा भी हो जाता है. So after that, after Mexico, I went to Belgium, where we have one mission there, which is also accredited to the EU, European Union. So I was working on the EU side. So वो करके, which was again an amazing experience. और उसके बाद then my next posting, I took a longish break in India बीच में. और उसके बाद फिर then I went to London as the head of the Nehru Center, which is our flagship cultural center, of ICCR. और उसके बाद then I went to Belarus as ambassador, and finally, as was mentioned in my CV, I retired as High Commissioner to Moscow. So ये सारी countries हैं.
Gracias, señora. Muchas gracias.
Gracias a usted.
Sí, yo hablo también más un poco.
Oh, qué bien, qué bien. No lo sabía.
Spanish people are in temperament closer to our Indian culture or temperament.
Absolutely, absolutely. And they're so friendly because, when I went there, as I told you, we go to that country to learn the language. So it's not like you already know the
Okay.
language when you go. So the first few months, you're totally lost because you're still trying to learn the language. And
Exactly.
Spain, at least at that time, was a country where English was barely spoken. Hardly anyone, except for the embassy staff people,
Yeah.
local staff.
Yeah.
Usually, whoever you met would not be able to speak English, which is
Okay.
good because it forces you to learn very fast, right?
Right.
But it was, the first few days, you just don't know, even if you just have to order anything in a restaurant or if you have to
Yeah.
buy something in the shop, you're just totally lost. But,
Yeah.
they're such good people that they would patiently wait for you to explain through gestures,
Yeah.
sometimes even through drawing,
Mhm.
and they'd all like stand around and look at you and cheer you on. And, when they finally got what you were trying to say, they'd all clap.
Yeah.
Bravo, bravo. So it was like great fun. So it still remains probably my favorite posting, also because it was my first, and you always have very warm feelings towards your first posting. So
Correct.
Spain is still very close to my heart.
So do you have to learn this language during your tenure, or you went
Yeah.
separately?
No. This is the first posting is for learning the language.
Oh,
So
okay.
your designation at that time is third secretary language training.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
yeah, so you go there and they enroll you in a language school or usually in a university,
Okay.
and they give you a particular period of time to learn. So now for all these so-called easier languages like French, Spanish, Italian, Portuguese, they now give you just about a year.
Okay.
And for the more difficult languages like Russian or Chinese, you get 2 years, 2 years plus.
Okay.
So for us, and then at our time, we studied the language as well as they made us sort of come to the embassy for half a day and also learn the ropes there, how things work out, how do different wings of the embassy function, the consular section, the cultural section, political section. So you sort of dip your fingers in every pie, and you figure out how the embassy works while
Yeah.
you're also learning your language.
Wonderful. Wonderful. That's fantastic. And are you still in touch with the language, or you forgot?
I try to keep in touch, but yes, it's been a very long time. So whenever I meet someone who's from Spain or Latin America, I do try to practice with them. But any language that you're not speaking regularly, it becomes rusty. So sometimes it takes me a little while to remember the right words or the expressions. But yes, I'm still very much in touch with the language.
Are you in touch with some people there in Spain, or forgot?
Yeah. No. I mean, I do have friends, not so many left in Spain anymore. But, I told you my third posting was Mexico,
Yeah.
where, it was very nice because I got to relearn the language. Although Latin American Spanish is a little different from the Spanish. And each country in Latin America has a different accent, a different way of speaking. So,
Correct.
Mexico was, actually much easier than the Spanish because they speak very clearly, open vowels, very much like Hindi. So it's easier to comprehend and speak. So now I think I've lost my Spanish accent when I speak. People can guess that I've learned it in Mexico. So yeah. So and now, so from Mexico, I still have a lot of friends. So we keep sort of, like chatting over WhatsApp. Sometimes they come down to India for a visit, so we meet. And so it's that way it's easier. Plus, wherever I've been posted, you do meet colleagues from the Spanish embassy or any of the Latin American embassies. So I do try to sort of, brush up my language with them. But yeah, it's not. I cannot speak now as fluently as I could when I was posted in Spain or Mexico. But I think it'll just take maybe a month or so of revision before it gets to be.
So do they invite you still, these embassy people, Embajada Mexico or Embajada Español, they invite you for some get-together, something like that?
It's been a very long time now. So, like I left Mexico, 22 years ago?
No, I'm talking
So-
in India. In India.
No, that's what
India.
I'm saying. And I've never really been posted in the Latin American division.
Yeah.
So, they never got to know me officially.
Okay.
So I get invitations from, embassies where I have the other embassies where I've been posted more recently, like
Okay.
Belarus would call me or Malta would call me, that kind of thing. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Um,
You were also in Malta.
Yeah. I told you I retired as High Commissioner to Malta. It
To
was, yeah,
So Malta is
it was
again
my last post.
Italian or Spanish? Which language do they speak?
English.
Okay. Okay.
English, because they were also, the British were there as well. So the UK had spread its wings everywhere, so to the
Yeah.
east, to the west. So Malta
Yeah.
was for a brief period of time ruled by the British, and they had to also fight for their independence, like we had to. Although it wasn't such a long, drawn-out fight. They got independence, around the same time as us, actually. But the British were there for a shorter period.
Okay. Okay.
So they all speak English, but there is a language called Maltese as well. And you'll be surprised to know that it resembles Arabic more than it resembles Italian.
Okay.
So so it's a very peculiar thing. Sounds very nice. A very sing-song like Italian, but the words are much more similar to Arabic than to Italian.
Okay. Okay.
Ashok
Wonderful.
Bhaiya,
Hanji.
Ashok Bhaiya, now you can welcome.
Yes, thank you very much, ma'am. I think other can also ask question now.
Thank you, Ashok.
No, Ashok Bhaiya, you
Hanji.
can now formally welcome Meena Tilak Raj Didi,
Hanji.
because she is the formal interviewer of today. So
Acha.
you can invite her
ठीक है.
and she can take it forward. And
ठीक है.
when we end the session and we open for question answer session, then
Yeah.
all of us available, we can get into it. So
ठीक है.
you have to invite her.
ठीक है. ठीक है.
Thank you very much for that very formal kind of invite, Rajiv ji.
Yeah, Ashok
I'm
Bhaiya,
very much
kindly
here.
invite
I
her.
hope you all can hear me. Can you hear me?
Yes,
नहीं,
yes.
Meena ji.
Am I audible?
Yes, yes.
But we can't see you.
Yeah, we can't see you, but we can hear you.
अशोक भैया इनवाइट तो कर लो प्लीज.
हाँ, वो मैं वही तो बात कर रहा हूँ.
उनका वीडियो शायद स्विच ऑफ है.
I think so.
आप अपना अशोक भैया आप अपना काम तो करो.
Namaskar, good evening once again. This is Ashok Bakshe from Jana Chapter Delhi, and we are meeting together two very eminent guests of today speaker. One is Ambassador Sangeeta Bahadur ji, and the other ladies, Meena Tilak Raji. And we welcome Meena ji on this talk show today, and to share your experiences of your traveling around the world in different countries. And I request you to take it forward from here, please. Thank you. Meena ji, are you there? She got disconnected, I think.
Yeah.
She got disconnected. So there was a lady, Sushmita Jain, in Malta as ambassador. I don't know which year. She was from JNU. She was from JNU, yes.
I don't know, because our High Commission in Malta opened only in 2018. So
Okay.
before that, it was our embassy in Lebanon, I think, which was taking care of Malta as a conference. So maybe she was there, but she was never. I was only the second resident High Commissioner in Malta.
Okay. Year-wise, I don't know which year was it, but that's what I heard from somebody. That was also her last posting, and then I'm not in touch
Certainly
with her.
not in Malta. She might have been in Lebanon, but
Okay.
not in Malta.
Maybe,
Yeah.
maybe. She
Yeah.
was our college mate in JNU,
Hmm.
and she
But
was also.
Sushmita Jain, I've never really heard of her in the service. And normally you're familiar with names.
Hmm.
So I really don't know. I've never heard of anyone called Sushmita Jain.
One is Mr. Gurmeet Singh.
Gurmeet Singh, yes. Gurmeet Singh, definitely. I know
Okay.
him, know him not very well, I would say, but
Yeah.
I do know him. But Sushmita Jain, I've never heard of.
Okay.
So, which is a little strange, but
Mhm.
maybe I might have missed the name somewhere.
Okay. Okay. So, which was the best country you liked?
All of them. I think, like, whenever people ask me this earlier, I used to say Spain because, like, it always, resonated so much with me. But
Yeah.
actually, come to think of it, wherever you are posted, it gives you so much to
Yeah.
absorb, to learn,
Mhm.
the kind of, stuff that it teaches you about different cultures, different political systems, different people, what
Yeah.
they think, how they behave.
Mhm.
And a lot of it is very interesting.
Mhm.
And it really adds layers, I think, to your knowledge, to your
Mhm.
own personality, because so many things that, you've never thought of maybe in a particular way. They
Yeah.
teach you to think about it in a different way. So
Yeah.
every country is very interesting, and
Mhm.
I've had fun everywhere. The only place where I would say probably I didn't enjoy my stint very much was Belgium. My children loved it, by the way, because it's a very tiny place, Brussels,
Yeah.
and they were quite young at that time, but very safe place. So they could roam around on their own. I would
Mhm.
send them with the maid, and they would take the tram and go to the city center and all. And they're a nice school, so they really liked it. I
Mhm.
didn't like it so much because it's a very very dead place, if you know, just like an overgrown village. So
Yeah.
there was yeah. So over the weekends on Sundays, everything was closed from shops and markets to restaurants to you name it.
Yeah.
Nothing was functioning.
Okay.
Then at 6 in the evening, everything shut down. So in the evening, you were like, what do I do? And I believe people did tell me that there was a very active nightlife for for foreigners, foreign diplomats who were staying there.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just never could figure out what they did and where they went and all that.
Yeah.
So apart from Belgium, which was okay, but I didn't enjoy it. I enjoyed the work, but I didn't enjoy the city as much as I did all my other postings.
Mhm.
But the rest were just amazing. Like whether it was Spain, whether it was Mexico, whether it was Bulgaria, another
Mhm.
very, very interesting place.
Yeah.
But then afterwards, London, of course, is London. So, it was, I've always been a great fan of, I'm an English literature student.
Okay.
So, like, and then I used to love this writer called Georgette Hare, who's a romance writer, wrote about, period romances. And all the places like she mentioned in her book. And I was like, wow, now I'm in this city where all these places, really are. So for
Yeah.
me, it was like a dream come true. We had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I was living in Mayfair, barely like 1 kilometer from the Buckingham Palace, and like such a beautiful area. My children had a great time there. My older one did her university from there. My younger one, who's a special needs child, she really flowered there because the school she was going to was so good, and they took such good care of her. that, like after I was there for nearly 4 years, in fact. So after that, she became so much more confident. She was like so happy there. So London was amazing. Then Belarus, another wonderful hidden gem in Europe. People don't even know where it is, because I remember when I was, posted as ambassador there, everybody would say, "Oh, congratulations!" But where is Belarus? So you had to tell them, it's like it's between Russia and Poland and Ukraine and that. So you have to position it geographically for them. So, but it turned out to be an amazing, amazing posting. I really enjoyed my entire tenure there. Despite the fact that I lost my mother there, she was with me there in Minsk when she passed away. And I myself, the year after that, I fell very badly ill with COVID, nearly died. But the doctors there, hats off to them, pulled me out somehow. I don't know. After 8 days in coma, they brought me out. So it turned out to be like, khatta meetha kind of a thing, but mostly meetha. And it was like an amazing place, wonderful people, love India, love Indian culture. So wherever you went, I mean, the moment they discovered you were the Indian ambassador, people would be just all over you, and it was such a wonderful feeling. Malta, again, an amazing dream city. It was like living inside a picture postcard. It's so pretty, so beautiful. And I had a lot of fun in all my postings. So I really, as I said, except for that one posting, which was not, I didn't like, I didn't enjoy it as much as the others. The rest were absolutely amazing.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. I can see Meena Tilakraji here. She's joined.
Kindly,
I think she's
kindly invite her. Kindly, Ashok Bhaiya, invite her to take over the session.
Once again, good evening, all of you who have joined today's session to listen to this eminent speaker of today, Ambassador Sangeeta Bahadur ji and Meena Tilakraj ji. So may I invite Meena Tilakraj ji to take over from here with her presentation of her.
Thank you very much for the honors. I hope you can hear me. Can you?
Yes,
now we can.
Yeah, because I got logged out somehow or the other. I'm very sorry. As it is, I was late because I had a visitor, and then I got logged out. So, but never mind. I guess things happen always for a reason. Maybe it was to have Sangeeta ji talk about her experiences and all. And after hearing all your experiences, Sangeeta ji, can I see you on board? Hello, can I see you?
I'm there.
Okay, Sangeeta ji, if I may ask you now, I have been hearing Ashok ji speaking to you and about your experiences, how you felt, but you felt as an ambassador over there. You were already a VIP kind of a person over there, right? And so some of your experiences would be very different from what a common person like you and me would go there and would have to stay there and what we would experience. So what I would like to know from you is, of all these places that you have mentioned, the wonderful places, some places which are very, very, I won't say unheard of, but they are very
off the beaten track.
Off the beaten track. They are less frequented or less known. So what would you say would they be like for a normal person visiting there, not as a tourist, but if somebody were to go there and stay there for some time, what would it be like? Can you start naming the places?
Sure. First posting, Spain. And let me first comment on the nice coincidence of you and me both wearing pink today.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Pink happens to be a favorite color of mine. Yeah.
Wonderful. It looks nice on you too.
Thank you.
So should we start with Spain then? In that case, since that was my first.
It's up to you how you would like to start.
Okay. So Spain was a long time ago, more than 30 years ago. I'm sure the country's changed a lot since then. Since I left Spain, I've been there only once in between for an official some official work that I had. But I would say that it would be a very relatively very easy place for an Indian to live, as you know, a normal individual, not as a diplomat. Because one, as I said, it's an amazing place. The people are absolutely wonderful. The economy these days is not doing too well, so I don't know how many jobs would be available. But as far as living conditions are concerned, it's a wonderful place. And now I believe they speak a little more English as well, so probably it's not so difficult. And plus, you know, many of us would look like them. In many places, I was just confused for a Spanish person. So as far as looks are concerned, then we Indians tend to pick up Spanish very easily because, you know, the sounds and the way it's a very phonetic language, just like Hindi. So you can learn it very easily. So many of us, you know, many Indians, they find it easy to pick up the language, and because socially it's very similar to us, you know, very family oriented, very warm people, lots of very hospitable, very open minded. So living wise, I would say it's a good place for a normal Indian to go and live, provided you can find a job and provided you don't get mugged or something. Because these days, I believe the crime rates are also, you know, rising in some of these countries, including Spain and Italy, where you know, the economies are not doing too well. Unemployment has been rising, and there are all kinds of issues that are happening. Even when I was there, for example, in my very first month, I think first month or second month, I could barely speak Spanish at that time. And I got adventurous, and I said on a Saturday afternoon, because since the embassy is closed on Saturday and Sunday, so I just thought I'll go out alone and explore the city. And this was in the middle of the day. And I was out, you know, walking around the center of the city. It's called Puerta del Sol. So I was, you know, just walking around, looking into shops and, you know, just generally rambling around. And suddenly, there were not too many people, unfortunately, on that side of the street where I was walking. And suddenly these two men approached me. One was an older man, one was much younger. And they said something to me in Spanish, and I couldn't understand. So I just said, you know, pulled out my one phrase, which I knew very well. No hablo español. I don't speak Spanish. And the moment I said that, they pulled a knife on me. And I don't know what. They wanted money. They wanted something else. I don't know what. And there they were standing with this big knife in their hands. And for a second, I just froze. You know, I don't know. I thought, aaj to main gayi, you know, that's the end of me today. But the fact that it was broad daylight, and my reaction was then to just scream at the top of my voice. I've never screamed like that in my life. And they got scared, I think, because of that. And there were people on the other side of the road. So they probably realized that, you know, broad daylight robbery of that kind was probably not a good idea. So I screamed, they ran away, and then I ran, you know, as fast as I could to the nearest metro station, walked into the metro, somehow got home and didn't get out for the next 3 days. I was so terrified. So, and my brother who visited a little later, he also, you know, he was robbed at one point in Spain. Now I believe things are even worse. So I think probably from the security point of view, it's sort of, you know, it depends on which area you live in, what you are doing, etc., etc. But otherwise, from the point of view of culture, civilization, society, the kind of people who are there, the kind of lifestyle you enjoy, it's amazing. It's amazing. So that is what I would say about Spain. Then my next posting, Bulgaria, again, a wonderful place. At that time when I was posted there in 90, I was there from 94 to 97 actually. So that was the time when the Soviet Union had come crashing down and had split up into all these, you know, these different countries. And Bulgaria was never a part of the Soviet Union, but it was very much within the Iron Curtain. So they had also sort of, just sort of started having a different political system that turned into a democracy. They had cut all ties with Soviet Russia, but they were also going through a very bad time financially because like suddenly the money had dried up, their currency had collapsed completely. Like when I went there in early '94, the leva used to be the lev, as they called it, the currency. It used to be roughly the same as the Indian rupee at that time to a dollar, which was around 30 leva to a dollar. By the time I left 3 years later, it was 1,500 leva to a dollar. So the currency had collapsed and, like whatever. But again, wonderful people, beautiful city, beautiful country, absolutely amazing. The kind of natural beauty you found there was terrific. And now I believe that, economically the situation is better. So if an Indian would just want to go there, take up a job and live there, probably wouldn't have such a hard time. At that point of time, again, the difficulty was the language because you had to be able to speak either Russian, not Russian, no, because everybody spoke Russian, but they hated Russia so much at that point of time that they called themselves a francophone country. I never heard a single person speak French there, but that didn't matter. They called themselves a francophone country. So you had to be able to speak Bulgarian. The older generation would still talk to you if you spoke in Russian. Younger people, even if they knew the language, they would refuse to do that. Not too many people spoke English at that time. But I'm sure, like with globalization and all, things have changed a lot, and maybe more people are now able to. So once language is not a problem and you can get a job, it's again a very nice place to live in. It's really beautiful. It's like all facilities are there. So I would say, yeah, you would be happy enough there.
I would like to interrupt you here and ask you, is Bulgarian an easy language?
Bulgarian is a sort of mixture, I would say, of Russian and Polish. So more Polish than Russian, and but very individual. I tried learning it because it helps. I just took a few classes, but then you get so busy as there was, apart from the ambassador, it's a small embassy, but apart from the ambassador, there were only 2 officers. So the 2 of us between us had to handle everything. So not too much time. Plus I had a small child, and also I could not really pay so much attention. I picked up the basics. So I could go into a shop and ask for things, or I could, like on the road, if I got lost, I could ask for directions. But I didn't really, progress beyond. But my little girl, my first daughter, she was about 5 months old when we went to Bulgaria, and she picked up the language like this because obviously, children, how fast they pick up. And by the time she was 1 year old, she was spouting 3 different languages, fluently. She was like the most fluent in Bulgarian, then English, and she spoke some Hindi as well. So it was very often I remember using her as my interpreter, which was so cute because you have this little 1.5, 2-year-old who's translating for me when I go to a shop or when I'm trying to communicate with my local help and all that. So people loved her there. Yeah,
very interesting.
Yeah, so they.
I would make one more interruption here.
Yeah.
And that is that as you go with the places, I would rather that you tell us, any small peculiarities of those places. Those would be very much more interesting to know. Briefly, you can tell us, but peculiarities of the place, what would it be? As an ambassador, I'm sure you must have come across them.
Yeah. I mean, as ambassador, you are less likely, in fact, to come across them because you are always surrounded by people. You have staff around, you have interpreters around, you have whatever. So as a younger officer, it's easier to sort of mix with the local crowd. and since you have to speak the language, so you probably get to know. So Spain, I would say the peculiarity, according to me, would be their completely bindas attitude. They're
Acha.
so amazing. So it's like just to give you one small example. First of all, it's a country that never sleeps. At least Madras is a city that never sleeps. So people start sort of, even on a working day, mind you, they would start going out of the house at around 9:30, 10. Then they'll, like go somewhere, have dinner, then go somewhere else, have a drink, then go somewhere else, have tapas. And so mostly they would start at around 10, come home at around 3, 4 in the morning, go to sleep, and then go to work. And then they have that siesta time of 2 hours during the day when they can come back and rest. And then the whole cycle starts again. Over the weekend, it was like you start at 10 and you come home after breakfast. That was the lifestyle. And what I really admired about that place was that unlike Paris is also a nice city, right? I mean, as you know, there's so many places and restaurants and clubs and whatnot. So Madras was the same, but far more family oriented, So like once I remember me and some friends, we were out, I think on a Friday night or a Saturday night, and maybe it was 3 in the morning. When you're young, you can do those things, stay up that late. So at 3 in the morning, we were just coming from, in the center of the city, we just had a couple of drinks, some dinner and all that. And we were we were wondering whether to go home now or to, do more stuff. And suddenly we heard a lot of noise, like music and, laughter and all that coming from just around the corner. And that was the main city square where, all that noise was happening. So we just thought we'll take a look. And we went there, and you wouldn't believe it, at 3 in the morning, there were at least 2 to 3,000 people in that square, from grandparents to little babies and prams. And they were all like, there was a band playing some, music, including, some very nice Spanish numbers, traditional, modern, whatever. And everybody was dancing. Everybody. So you can, it was such a delightful sight. I still sort of, remember. And similar kind of experiences just litter my memory. When we were talking about Bulgaria, one very peculiar thing that we noticed there, because we Indians, we are taught from our childhood, don't mix cold and hot things, right? So if you're having something cold, then don't have anything hot, etc. There, even when you went for official meetings, they would place in front of you a piping hot cup of coffee, black coffee, and a glass of ice cold Coca-Cola. And everybody had a sip of the coffee and then a sip of the Coca-Cola and a sip of the coffee. And you were like, how do you not fall ill? But then, like you start doing it yourself because everybody around you is doing that. And you discover you don't fall ill. Nothing happens to your throat. You're fine. So it was like that. And the second thing is, as I mentioned earlier, they call themselves the Francophone country, while not one single person I ever met spoke French. So it was quite peculiar. And the third thing was that they were, again, like a lot of countries in East Europe, very, very keen on India. So they had a very big Indology department in their universities, and a lot of people spoke Sanskrit, who spoke Hindi, and so it was like very nice being there. We made a lot of friends, and it was quite amazing. And it's a beautiful city, Sofia. At that time, it was a little bit falling to pieces because of lack of finances, but otherwise, I think that has been now remedied, and the city looks beautiful again. But it was an amazing experience. Then,
yeah.
hello?
Yeah, hello, I'm there.
Yeah. So then after Bulgaria, we went to Mexico, and that is where I had my second daughter. And that was, again, an amazing experience. And Mexico is I just found it to be such a delightful place, not only because I could practice my Spanish once again, but also because, it is so different from Europe, for example. That's my only non-European posting. All my other 6 postings have been in Europe, West or East. But Mexico was really out of that circuit. So for one thing, Mexico City looks very much like Delhi. So that's the first thing that strikes you. It's also got all these roundabouts, lots of greenery, lots of trees, and very polluted, as Delhi is. So it was, and the pollution is such that you can't really smell it or feel it because it's just, and it's there because Mexico City is in a bowl, in a kind of a valley. So there are mountains all around, and so the dirty air can't escape. It just settles into the bowl. So because of that, there's a lot of issue with pollution. So every few days they would have these emergency declarations, red alert, and half the cars were taken off the roads, and you were advised to take precautions when you were going out and all that. So, but that apart, something very peculiar about that I found about Mexico first, it has a tremendous history, not Spanish history, but pre-Spanish, before the Spanish invaders came. So just like the rest of Latin America, Mexico has a very rich history of the Mayan civilization. They have relics from, thousands of years past. And it was so sad to learn how the entire Mayan civilization was destroyed by the Europeans, Spain in particular. I mean, despite the fact that I love Spain, but it was something that, I really wondered just how cruel do you have to be to do that? Because we heard, these are all parts of the local, public memory now, I would say, because they tell you these stories. Now, most of the Mayans were wiped out. Their cities were wiped out. For example, their capital city of Teotihuacan, such a beautiful city. I mean, even the remains are so impressive. It's like the way you feel when you go to Nalanda. You feel the same way when you go to Teotihuacan. And you realize that it was all destroyed. And some other places have these relics, carving, sculptures, etc., which are amazing. Like, I don't remember now the name of the place where we saw this, but there was actually this carving, 2,000 years old, of somebody who looked as though they were wearing a space suit and they were sitting in a spacecraft, So who knows what, just like we say that, we probably had aeroplanes in those days, Pushpak Viman and all, but here you have a living sculpture which shows that. And the Spaniards, when they came, so they destroyed all the local culture, traditions, religion, everything. And quite apart from what they did to the men, most men were killed in these wars that they had. And the women were systematically raped, So many of them would end up pregnant. They didn't know what to do. So they would have these mixed race children and all that, many of whom are now, like form the population of Mexico. And what the interesting thing I learned was that this taboo that, for example, we have in India, not just in India, in many countries, about unwed mothers. I think at some stage in their history, it just went out of the window. So a lot of women there do not marry, or maybe marry much later, whatever, but they have this, a child out of wedlock, and nobody cares. Their parents are supportive. They are like, totally taken care of, like any child should be taken care of. And so initially, when you met somebody, especially a woman, you just ask her, what does your husband do, whatever. And then I realized it's the wrong question to ask, because most of them do not have a husband. They might have a live-in partner, or they might have had a partner at some stage. They have a child, but they've never been married. So that was, an eye-opener for me. I was like, wow, I mean, this is also a way for a stable society to exist, with nobody being judgmental about these things. A child is a child. How does it matter whether it's born, out of wedlock or within wedlock or whatever? you're a human being and your child is a human being, and that's the way you deserve to be treated. So that was one amazing lesson I learned. I mean, coming from a country where these things are such taboo, even now, 30 years later, it was like quite an eye opener for me. So,
I
and
must,
otherwise,
yeah,
yeah.
I must mention something here. I'm sorry for cutting you in between.
No, it's a
because,
conversation. Don't worry.
No, there are two reasons. I have a very strong reason, and that is that I have to monitor time also. So that is why I had requested you that just briefly tell me what are the peculiarities instead of everything else, so that we can cover up the most interesting part. And over here,
Yeah.
I'll just interrupt you here when you said about the unwed mothers, because I'm from the tourism field and I've worked with Mexicans, I've worked with the Spaniards, I've worked with the the Polish people, I've worked a lot with Italians and so many other countries, even Britain, British people and Swiss and Americans and whatever, Australians and all. So
she speaks Italian, by the way.
Yeah, really? Oh, nice.
Yeah, I do speak Italian, yes. I've been working with them for over 35 years, so obviously I do speak. I speak Spanish, I speak Italian. So this was very much in the beginning of my career when I had to allot rooms. And I had allotted rooms. And after that, I said, Mr. and Mrs. So-and-so, where is your husband? She said, he's not my husband. I said, yeah, but didn't you ask me for a double bed? She said, yes, I did ask you for a double bed, but does that mean that I have to be married? So
exactly. Now you know how shocked I was when I.
Yeah. So and imagine me, a young Indian girl in the beginning of my career of tourism, and I come across this, and she says, but do I have to be married to ask for a double bed? And I'm like, oh, is it? Like I couldn't say a thing. I said, okay, I'm really sorry. So after that, I had to be on my guard all the time. So I can very well
So you
imagine.
never ask these questions. Yes,
Never.
That's what I meant. Just don't ask it.
So then about the Spanish, I'll tell you something peculiar. I'll tell you, which probably you must have overlooked, and that's the Spanish speak with a lisp.
Yes.
They say, "Cómo se llama?"
Yeah. Exactly. That's what I meant. That I lost my lisp when I went to
and I hated speaking Spanish in the beginning, because I said my mouth starts paining, my jaw starts paining trying to do that. And then after that, I had a chance to speak to work with the Mexicans who spoke plain, normal Spanish, very simply the language. So I said, oh, so one can speak like this also. So then I decided that whether I'm working with the Spaniards or I'm not, or I'm working with anybody else, but if I have to speak Spanish, I'm going to speak it like this, because otherwise my mouth is distorted for any other language.
That's very true. That's very true. Totally
but
understand.
there is a very peculiar history why they speak like that. The reason why they speak like that is that there was a king who used to lisp. So
everybody imitated him.
So the inner coterie used to in order not to make him feel odd, they would lisp also with him. So it became known that people who lisp and speak are VIPs, are important people.
The elite speak like this.
They are the elite. They work with the king, and they are the elite. So that is how everybody else started speaking that way. And that is how the whole population of Spain today speaks with a lisp. Now, this is a peculiarity. This is a peculiarity. So this is what I mean by saying that why don't you point out the peculiarities of the places? That would be more interesting for people to know, And once again, just to remind you that we are really, really, running short of time. So please give us the peculiarities.
Well, so we've spoken about this. Then after Mexico, then I was posted to London after a break of several years when I was in India. London now, I mean, we really don't need to speak about their peculiarities. The only thing I would like to say is one, that London is hardly white anymore. So when you are, roaming around in Oxford Street, for example, you're likely to meet every other nationality other than British. So that was one thing. And the second thing I would say I found very surprising was that they're still very old-fashioned about various things. So, for example, if you are, more than 30 years of age, you automatically Mrs., whether you're married or not. And they just assume that you have to be married. The second thing is that they are, I found that very few women there have, a serious career, which was very surprising. Till I realized that, you have to make a choice. Either you have a career or you have a family, because childcare, schooling, etc., is so expensive that a lot of women just have to, give up their jobs to look after a child if they decide to go ahead with a family. So this was something that I found very strange. Then the British, of course, I've always found them very polite, but they, still have this kind of an unmentioned racism about whenever they speak to you. So it's always like, it's fine, but, we colonized you, we ruled over you. So that kind of an attitude always comes across. Otherwise, I found that, like in general interaction, they are usually very polite, very helpful and all that. London, of course, is, probably different from other cities in the country. So it's far more cosmopolitan. It's more, more probably in that sense a little more friendly than other cities in London in UK would be. So as such, we all know the British. So I don't really need to point out the peculiarities, except to say that they have stolen a lot of words from our languages, which they use openly everywhere. Lots of Indian influences, in wherever you go in restaurants, and their museums are full of our stuff. So it's like,
yeah, that is
like
what
that.
I was going to say, that they have not only stolen our words, but they have stolen a lot of our things also. And I'll tell you one very interesting fact about English. In our school, I am from a convent school where we had British teachers also. Okay, so we had a lesson which was called Un-English. I don't know whether you heard this term from anybody in England. Now, what was
Un-English? No.
Un-English? So according to, even today, it exists in certain pockets, that anything which the British found was not correct to their protocols or to their polite manners was known as un-English. Like, oh, you're doing this, this is very un-English. That means you're the English
You're not
don't
being, yeah,
you
the
know.
English don't do
So
this, yeah.
yeah, so this was a chapter in my in our text, and we then, a person like me who always has something to say for us, I said, but there are so many things which are un-Indian which the Britishers do. you know you know so that is
Very
a
true.
peculiarity about them, which they still feel that if something is not according to the norms of their thinking, then it is un-English. But we are so humble,
Very
we
true.
Indians are so humble that we don't turn around and tell anybody that this is un-Indian.
Un-Indian, absolutely.
Yeah, but
absolutely.
on the other hand, like one of my teachers was British, and we had chapters about the English history, which was not very polite. So I asked my teacher, I said, but teacher, you are so nice, then why are these people so bad if they were British? So she gave me a very beautiful answer. She said, power corrupts. When people are in power, they become bad. Otherwise, they are very
And
nice.
absolute power corrupts,
Otherwise,
absolutely.
everybody is nice. And even if you go to England, that is what she told me. Even if you go to England, you'll find people are very nice. You know.
Yes.
So and
They're
this is my
reserved but
experience.
polite. Yeah.
Yes, this is my experience. When the Britishers come to India, we work with them. I connect with them very easily because I've learned from them. I connect with them very easily, and I find them very, very nice, very friendly, very affectionate. You should just know how to connect with them. So
Yeah,
that's
right.
about the
That's
British.
right.
You can go ahead with your two-liners for other countries also quickly.
Just wanted to also point out that the British tend to drink a lot. Lots
yes.
of,
Oh,
drunken
yes.
scenes on the roads every Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night. So, and they seem to drink to get drunk. Unlike the Spaniards, who love
They
to drink
drink too.
also,
Yeah, they drink
but they
for
drink at a very slow pace. And, like, I've never seen a drunk Spaniard in my life. But in London, every weekend there would be somebody puking in the streets or, like falling down in a dead faint and all that. So that was one other, that sort of different
No.
approaches to drinking. So,
There is a psychological reason for that. Because the British are so tight-minded, they are so controlled by their norms and by their protocols and by their polite manners and things like that, that when they can afford to, when they can
They just
manage,
let
when
go.
they get an opportunity, they just kind of open up. And that is
Yeah.
what gives them out, and the moment you catch, because I work with people who are visiting here, who come here to have fun. So once you catch hold of that particular point of theirs and make them feel comfortable that, no, don't worry, you don't have to be on your guard for all the time, then they are very easy. This is
right,
yes,
right,
it's a
right.
psychological reason that why do they get drunk so easily? Just like our Indians, why don't our Indians get drunk very easily?
Absolutely, because
It's
Indians
the
also
same
drink to
reason.
get drunk. Yeah,
Yes, it's the same
Absolutely.
reason. Indians drink
yeah.
to get drunk, whereas the others,
Absolutely.
the Italians, the Spaniards, the Americans and all, they just have fun over drinking.
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely.
That's right. Yeah.
Right.
Any other particular country where you have particular peculiarities?
Well, apart from these, of course, I mean, I've visited about 50 countries, but that's like different. But where I was actually posted and I got to, know the people. The next one after London, I went to Belarus as ambassador, which was like, as I said, an amazing place. And what I would like to say is that, you think they all speak Russian there. That is still the national language. There is something called Belarusian, but it's still regarded as a language of the villages and, like the uneducated. So unfortunately, very much like Indians feel about their mother tongue. We feel this. Many of us still feel ashamed to speak in Hindi or whatever. So it's similar to how they react to their own language. But so there's a lot of Russian influence still there. But they are much nicer people, much warmer people. I mean, at least I like them a lot because, after having traveled to Russia also several times, the temperaments are very different. They're much sweeter, softer, very, very nice, very emotional people, very emotional. So
Sangeeta ji, you are such a beautiful looking person also. And plus you were at a particular position. So for you, everybody would be nice, especially the males.
No, no. I had a lot of female friends as well, but that's not the point. The point is that there are not too many Indians who live there, right? Because of the language problem and all kinds of things. So there are maybe 50 of them with families, maybe 100, 150. I used to know all of them by name, individually because, only so many. But they all would probably corroborate what I'm saying, that it's a very easy country to live in from that point of view. People are very non-judgmental, very kind. They would go out of their way to help. The peculiar thing I'd like to mention, I don't know if you're aware that during the Second World War, Belarus was totally destroyed, including Minsk, which was bombed to the ground. There was not a single building standing at the end of it. And
Wow.
I think they lost something like almost 70% of the male population who all joined the army, and so they were all killed. So for some time the country had to go through hell, as you can imagine. No workforce, only women were left. So even today, you'll find far more women in workplaces than men. And then they had to rebuild the entire country. I think the way Ukraine will now have to do. So even Minsk, which is a beautiful city, very clean, very organized, but it was literally built from scratch, rebuilt from scratch. So it's a very modern city. All their historical buildings, architecture, everything was just destroyed. So they've made replicas of various of the old famous churches and other buildings and all, but they're not the original. They're new.
So would you say, I'm sorry again to interrupt.
Yeah.
So would you say that this particular city, Belarus, that you're talking about, has
it's a country.
As a country, has only modern buildings which reflect the past rather than having ancient buildings?
Mostly. Maybe in some
so
very
most of their buildings are new,
places.
but they reflect the past. Okay.
Yeah. So Minsk, some parts of it would still remind you of what Europe looks like, West Europe looks like, but most of it has been rebuilt from scratch based on photographs and designs that they had earlier. But the peculiar thing that struck me, before going to Belarus, I had never heard of the concept of an International Men's Day. I don't know, you might have heard of it, but I
International?
I thought there was an Men's Day, like International Women's Day. So International Men's Day, I had never heard of it.
No,